Rossella, and today we're going to make some of my favorite cookies. We're going to do a marriage of two things that I love the most, cookies and Nutella. And if you don't know, Nutella is a chocolate hazelnut spread that's really popular in Italy. Kids actually eat it in place of peanut butter. And I'm going to show you how you can use Nutella to spice up some regular chocolate chip cookies. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my wet stuff into my KitchenAid stand mixer. Just going to lift open my stand mixer. And in here, we're going to add some softened butter. It's really important that you use softened butter. Otherwise, if it's cold from the fridge, it's going to be really hard to work with, and it's just going to be so tough. We're going to add 2 eggs to this. It's going to bind our stuff up. I'm also going to add some sugar. And you don't need a lot of sugar because the Nutella is so sweet already. And last but not least, I'm going to add an entire jar of Nutella. Don't be afraid. It's going to be fun. And Nutella started in Italy, and it didn't always come in a spread. It actually used to come in a big loaf, and it was called pasta di gianduia. And gianduia means hazelnuts. And the problem with the loaf of Nutella was that parents would put it in sandwiches for their little kids, and the kids wouldn't eat the bread. They would just eat the Nutella paste and be done with it. So then the Nutella company decided to make it into a delicious spread, so you would have to eat the bread. So I have all my Nutella in here, and I'm going to close up my stand mixer, lock it down, and we're going to start combining everything. Now you want to let this run until everything's smoothly combined. I'm just going to turn this off for a moment while I mix my dry ingredients. We have some flour. We're going to add some baking soda, just a little bit of salt. And you'll find this really isn't that much different from a regular chocolate chip cookie recipe. And finally, when I started looking for a recipe like this, the ones that I found just had not enough chips in it. I personally can't get enough chips. I liked a packed out cookie. So I'm adding an insane amount of chocolate chips. We're using white chocolate and semi-sweet because that'll give you a mixture of 3 different chocolates with the milk chocolate that's in the Nutella. And once it melts together, it's gonna be heavenly. So I'm just gonna combine this really quickly. And you can add anything in addition to the chips, or you can use half the chips and add some nuts. Hazelnuts work great because it is a hazelnut spread. You can add some coffee grinds or espresso powder, and that'll really amp up the cookies and give you a nice little power charge. So now I'm all mixed up here. And before I start mixing this in, I'm gonna take some milk and vanilla extract, and I'm using a little bit more vanilla extract than people say I should use, but I always like to amp up vanilla in anything I do. So we're going to alternate between our dry ingredients and our milk with our vanilla, just so the milk lubricates our dough and makes everything stick. Mix a little bit of that in, and then a little milk and vanilla. And you just want to repeat this until you have everything combined and you have your dough. Okay, I'm getting ready to add the very last bit of my flour. And I'm just going to grab a rubber scraper and scrape down any of the flour that's deposited on the sides of the bowl. Because this dough is like a brick of gold and you do not want to waste any of it. Add my last bit of dry ingredients and my last bit of milk. And now we have Nutella chip cookie dough. And this is almost ready to be baked in the oven. I personally like to cool my dough in the fridge for about 2 hours because that makes it a lot easier to work with. If you don't have time, that's fine. You could just take a tablespoon and start spooning dough out onto an ungreased cookie sheet. So I'm gonna go ahead and refrigerate this. After you let your dough sit in the fridge for about 2 hours, it's going to look like this. And as you can see, it's really dark and it's very firm to the touch, so it's gonna be really easy to work with. I'm gonna start rolling it out onto an ungreased cookie sheet. I like to roll my cookie dough into balls. This way the shape is really nice and uniform. If you don't have time, just take a tablespoon and start dropping little mounds of dough onto your cookie sheets, your ideal spooning partner. So just gonna place them about 1.5 inches apart because you don't want all of them to touch. I like my cookies big. Okay, I'm gonna make 1 row of 5 and then another row of 3 vertically. So you have 15 cookies per sheet. I got my cookies all rolled out here, and these are the perfect cookies to bake anytime. And they're great to bake for your apartment because your apartment's gonna smell like cookies and hazelnuts. And if you don't like cookies and chocolate and hazelnuts, then tough. Anyway, these are ready to go in the oven, and they're gonna bake at 375 for 10 to 12 minutes. Personally, I like to bake mine for 10 minutes and not a minute more because I like a fudgy, chewy cookie instead of one with a little bit more crunch. So let me get my oven mitts on because everything's hot. And these in the oven. And presto, we have beautiful cookies already done. These look amazing. That's exactly what I want my cookies to look like. So I'm gonna break one apart for you so you can see the inside. And this is the best thing that could ever happen to your cookies. You have this beautiful melted chocolate, and I'm gonna taste one. I really love how all 3 of the different chocolates melted together. I'm gonna finish my dozen cookies here. You go bake some. What are you doing? You're lazy.